It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. Welcome and good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you.
The debate last night. Well, this isn't going to be a debate. The analysis of the debate's not going to be like the last one, where it was Biden won, Harris won, Harris won, Biden. Harris won, Harris won, Harris won, Harris won. Then 2 days later. Well, the pundits all thought Harris won, but the audience that they're actually trying to convince didn't. It's like, well, that's the only thing you care about.
Right.
In a presidential debate is the people that are undecided. And so that's not happening now. Nope. What you saw was a lot of anger from the leftist activist media. They were angry about what happened. The questioning now of whether this whole tone of civility. It was funny because there's a group called End Tribalism in Politics, and they went, "This is exactly the kind of debate that we want." Everybody was civil in it, and I'm sure that Republicans are like, "Oh yeah, we like this one," and Democrats are like, "Are you out of your mind?" Because the Democrat media just was shaking their heads. MSNBC, we do suggest that they all take their blood pressure medicine today. Yeah. Because they did not seem happy at all as to what is, and I'm talking about the anger being directed at the strategy of the Harris campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know? And it was right away. I mean, it was instant reaction. The audio that, we're playing, this didn't happen at 3 o'clock in the morning. It happened right after the debate. The liberal activists in these newsrooms are concerned greatly because they understand it's not working for Kamala Harris. They understand her lying to sound more like Trump isn't working. And their frustration is, why aren't you owning your liberalism? Why aren't you out there promoting your liberal ideas that you believe in, that we know you believe in, instead of lying to be more like Donald Trump?
Let's give you some examples. This is MSNBC and Simone Sanders. Here we go.
There were so many niceties on that debate stage tonight. I am just kind of like, well, if you agree so much with JD Vance, why should they vote for you?
By the way, that's something we said that many people are probably asking. This is on CBS. This is Ed Gordon. There we go.
But I think the civility that we saw tonight may be a mistake by Democrats, quite frankly. I talked at the outset of energizing this base. I was just in Ohio, and many Democrats were livid about what's going on in Springfield. I think Walz missed an opportunity to really push the racial insensitivity there.
There you go. So, again, the civility now is the problem. Then we go back to MSNBC, and we go back to Joy Reid. Here we go.
And so I think that the people who want the fistfight are the base of the Democratic Party. Democrats want to see someone get up there and give a knuckle sandwich to Donald Trump. That's what they want.
Wow, okay. Really?
Doesn't seem to be a lot of joy.
Where's the joy? They, again, want the liberalism out there. They want her to own it. They want Tim Walz to own it. They were happy that she picked Tim Walz. Based on his actions as governor, they know where he stands. They know she's a liberal, not their first choice, but it's what they're stuck with. And they know she's far left. And they're frustrated now that she's lying to sound more like Trump because it's not working for her, because it's not believable. And they believe she should just own it. This is what you're hearing after last night's debate. What they were hoping, I guess, is going into this debate is that Tim Walz was going to be that guy that could come out and own that liberalism, that was not going to agree with JD Vance on so many things or be so amenable to JD Vance on the debate stage. That's the only thing that I can come up with. They were expecting him to come out as a bulldog. And he wasn't going to do that. He's not capable of doing it because he's not confident enough to do it.
Then there was, of course, Jen Psaki, who again had advice for the campaign. You know, so you've got these two sides here that he should have, punched Trump in the face.
Yeah.
Nice violent rhetoric there.
Yeah.
By Joy Reid that, they expected him there. Their Democrats are angry and they want to see the anger. Well, no, you can't, because this is the campaign of joy. So like I said, that we had said this all along, that you have the liberals who are absolutely seething. They've been seething this whole because they went, oh my God, here we go again. All the positions that we called Donald Trump Hitler for, and evil and a misogynist and a xenophobe and you name it, are now being endorsed by Kamala Harris. And we're supposed to say, oh, she's going to be tougher on the border than Trump, but it's a good tough.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, okay, if it works, if we see it works, maybe we'll be behind you because we know you're lying. And now they see it's not working, and they're furious that what is viewed as the leadership of their party, which is the person who's running for president, is promoting ideas that they called Hitler-like.
Yeah.
But then you have Jen Psaki and her debate. Not that he should be getting angry and furious. Here's her suggestion.
But coming out of it, I hope that they free Tim Walz and put him out there and let him be rusty at times and make mistakes and hug football players and cry and be funny sometimes. That's the magic. That's why he's on the ticket.
So she's just the opposite, and she's been big, as we know. Jen Psaki, very, very big on the whole different type of masculinity.
Right.
And so what she believes, you've got some on MSNBC saying, punch him in the face, get in his face, get angry, get angry, get angry. And Jen Psaki saying that he should be allowed to cry.
Yeah.
This is the insanity of the left right now. They have no idea where to go. Why? As we have said, with any political party, the long-term goal always has to be to unify people around a set of issues. You don't have to do it 100%. But one thing you do have to do and be close to 100% is when you talk about the economy, they better be able to see it.
Yep.
And you better not have massive inflation. And you better not discount inflation, as we told the Democrats a long time ago. Serious mistake to say this inflation is nothing. And to keep wanting to spend more and more and more and more money. But a political party, when you have the Democrats that practice identity politics and the victim-oppressor relationship, you keep expanding the number of victims, which keeps expanding the number, as we know, of oppressors. And when you practice identity politics, the group that was a victim yesterday can be an oppressor tomorrow. We've seen it. You keep dividing the party.
Yep.
And a political party has to unite around a core set of issues. Nobody knows right now with Kamala what their core set of issues are. We actually know what they are. We actually know what they are. Their line, Kamala's line about agreeing with Trump on all these particular issues. But the problem with the Democrats is they practice identity politics. They practice victim-oppressor relationships or victim-oppressor narrative, And the fact is, on the actual issues that they truly believe, the American public wholeheartedly rejects.
Yep.
That's a tough sell to keep a political party winning.
Yep. Yeah, you can't win that way. You just can't. You can't keep that up. You know, this is where they are. You shouldn't have to, the far left believes they shouldn't have to lie about what they believe. That the problem is not necessarily that the ideas are wrong. It's that you don't have the right people selling them. That's what you're going to hear if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz lose. The far left is going to say they didn't do their job. They didn't sell their liberal agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that before.
Well, we've seen it with Biden.
Yep.
He actually implemented their liberal agenda, but he couldn't sell it. They saw the American people rejected it.
Yep.
So they needed somebody else to sell the same message. Mm-hmm. She comes in and says, well, the only way we can sell our party to success is to agree with Donald Trump on all the major issues that we've demonized him for and called him Hitler and a xenophobe for,
yep,
and a racist and everything else. Now, we want to enact the same policies without calling ourselves xenophobes and racists.
Right.
In fact, we're going to be tougher. The one I think that is just over the top, where people just said, this is just pure BS, is the ads that you see where she's going to be tougher on the border. Nobody buys that. No one buys that.
No.
And that's been one of the major selling points. And as I said, is this the election where my father is wrong? Have we been BS'd so much that finally the nation, and they're so blunt with their BS. I mean, it's not sophisticated BS.
Well, I think that's where we are. I think people still, to your father's point, do want to be BS'd, but it's so bad right now. It's like, yeah, but there's only so far you can go with it. And it's because reality, when you're lying in the face of reality, you just can't get away with it. In the abstract, they could. For years, Democrats could build it over and over again because in the abstract, we want a country that will blah, 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 and will blah, 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 and will be, yeah, but what are you going to do about what's happening right now? That's reality at your doorstep, and you can't BS your way through that.
No, I think it's a great point. They keep talking about the new future, and we're the new generation. No, you're the generation in power right now.
This is it.
And
you're in power.
You're telling us what you're going to do instead of justifying what you've done.
Right. And JD Vance kind of hit that point. He said it before. And he's saying, she keeps talking about what she'll do as president. She's vice president right now. And this is where the American people are. And they had to make it seem like she's not in office right now. They had to make it seem like Donald Trump is in office right now. The left tried to float that imagery in people's minds, that thought in people's minds, except reality keeps saying, oh, no, she's the current vice president, and these are all the problems caused by the administration that she's a part of.
Democrats have to do something different. I don't know what it is. And it's even harder after the debate last night.
Yeah.
As to any advice I'd give. Like I said, it's over 40 years I've been following politics in the media. And normally in any campaign, and you can too, this is the direction they should go. I don't know what works for Democrats right now in messaging. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
I can't tell you. I'd sit there and go, here's your money back because I can't advise you what to do.
Well, and that's it. Because where it ends up is the reality is that the far left ideas don't. An open border and spending to the point that you basically from it, you get record inflation for a generation. You can't sell those ideas.
Government spending that was supposed to help you ended up destroying so many Americans' finances.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first time that we've ever experienced that, the government spending affected everybody in the United States. And the government spending was for supposedly good reasons, to get you back on your feet.
Yeah. Well, and
boom.
And that's it. I saw a stand-up comedian, this goes back maybe a year and a half. It said, during COVID, they sent us all this money. And now we're having to give it all back. That was the reality in his mind. That was the perception, and the crowd went wild. That's where the American people are. Forget about getting into the details. You don't have to even get into the weeds on that. Yeah, they were bailing us out then, and it wasn't enough back then. And now we're paying that and multiple times back with inflation. That's exactly what happened.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Cotton growers, of course, know that when bolls are open, it's an open invitation for wind and rain damage to your crop. And unfortunately, in Georgia, Hurricane Helene showed up without an invitation and at the very wrong time.
Georgia, most directly in the path of Helene, 77% of the cotton bolls opened when the storm hit.
Ouch. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says producers did what they could to protect the crop.
There were efforts, certainly, to harvest as much cotton as possible in advance of this system.
But they were only able to get about 6% out, the rest exposed to the elements.
A week ago, 59% of the cotton was rated good to excellent. That number has plummeted this week to 33%. Assessments obviously still continue, but this has been a big blow for cotton,
especially in Georgia and the Southeast. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. In the debate last night, Vance got in about Israel and the point that had to be made. Here this is.
Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
But it's not a preemptive strike.
No.
That's how they asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
Should there be it's not preemptive strike.
No, it isn't. No, there were a lot of questions, by the way, the premise of which were absolute false, last night that I noticed, and it was like, all right, I'm losing count here. And, but it's frustrating, but I think, I do believe that was a solid answer by JD Vance.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
And bringing up the $100 billion in unfrozen assets.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Very important to bring up.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. This is one of the, I think, worst moments for Tim Walz last night. And you and I, we'd started the show with this, and we know people are waking up now, so, they haven't heard it. But we thought we would play it again because, to me, it was one of a couple of worst moments, bringing up the whole middle class thing again, where it's not even appropriate to the question being asked. And you and I were like, wow, the coaching has to be horrible. How do you not pound in? Do not bring up in an unrelated, completely unrelated question that it was the middle class. Try to answer the question quickly.
Right.
I don't care how you answer. Just don't say middle class, and don't stall to answer the question by using that.
Right.
Because that's what you're doing.
You're drawing more attention.
Well, this was whether he was, in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre. Here we go.
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and
We're done. You're over at that point. It's like, why are you doing this?
You just took a 90-degree turn. Sorry, you've lost the audience at that point. That's what liars do. And how their coach didn't pound into him, hey, don't bring up the I'm from a middle class thing. We're having to eat that on social media like nobody's business. The memes are relentless. Go down a different road. Use something else. I made a mistake. Anything but that. Our buddies rode our bikes until the lights came up. What? What? I'm sorry, did you even hear the question? Are you listening to this debate? Where's your head right now? It was weird.
I know.
It was bizarre.
And he did the same on, I believe, was it on economic issues here? I'm just going through the different stuff there. No, that was, he said it again, too, on, I can't find it. He said it again, I'm relating to another issue.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, why are you bringing up the whole middle class thing again?
Well,
and it's so amateurish, everything that's going on in that campaign.
You know, it makes John Kasich, the whole joke about John Kasich, because he said it so many times. My dad was a postman. My dad was a postman. My dad was what time is it, John? My dad was a postman. Hey, John, do you know the capital of California? My dad was a postman. And there was a joke about that went on for a long time. And the same is happening here. And it's really bad. And here's the thing. Kasich was never the nominee.
Right.
There's the difference.
Here's a moment of JD Vance explaining because about the children to be trafficked at the southern border, which, again, the media is trying to hide that big time.
Right.
But here we go.
So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember, when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Great
was
answer.
Now, that was number one.
Yeah.
You took a question and you completely redirected it, where a lot of people don't know that there's 320,000 children that are missing.
Right.
They're lost. They don't know where they are. And people hear that and go, oh, wow. Yeah, that is really family separation, isn't it?
And they'll fact check that, too. People will fact check it on their own, and they'll find out that it's true. And that's a problem. It's a problem for the liberal media activists. It's a problem for the Harris campaign. Reality has come to the door for the Democrats. In fact, there's really not even a door between them and reality. It's right there, staring them in the face.
Here is JD Vance and his closing statement last night.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl. And that, too, has gotten harder with because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse. Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and good night.
Yeah, it's a great close. It's a great close. You know, there is somebody who sounds confident, and you have to ask yourself, man, I thought that Tim Walz sounded and looked overly nervous the entire time. Others were saying, well, he got better toward the end of the debate.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see him improving.
I watched the last hour first, so for me
But you look at it overall, the side-by-side comparison. What brings confidence? Confidence is somebody who has faith in what they believe in. Politically, it is about having conviction in something. I think really that's part of the frustration for the far left. They're looking at this going, well, we know Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are radicals like us. Why can't they have the confidence to get out there and promote those ideas? Because, again, these are individuals who just believe that that it's not being explained correctly. That the problem is that you're not understanding their radical ideas and views. That's what they believe the problem is.
No, that's a solid point. They do. And that's why they keep repeating the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
And eventually the public will accept it. Well,
right.
The public doesn't accept it. Why? Because we're not dealing with hypotheticals anymore.
Exactly. And the radicals don't live in reality. So they don't see it. In their mind, those radical views are the ones, and they're hell-bent on it. And by the way, probably because you mentioned the Obama years really starting all of this off, but they had thought in building all of that, they thought they had won forever. They thought they were on their way to winning all of it forever. Well, reality changes all of that when you're no longer talking about the abstract. In the good times, you can talk about, well, what should we be doing and blah, blah, blah. We talked about the cocktail socialists where you stand around and you're talking about all these ideas if implemented. But you don't have to really deal with that reality. It's kind of like Austin, Texas. You can be a liberal there. You can be weird, but you're getting the benefit of all the greatness of the state of Texas. Low taxes and freedom. And you don't have to deal with the reality. Oh, wait, until too many of you move in. And then that starts to change. There's where the Democratic Party is. They can't understand, the most radical base of their party can't understand why people just don't get it. They were so close to winning it all for a long time. They thought for generations. Remember, they said, we don't know if Republicans are ever going to win the White House again in our lifetime.
Right now, they're in such emotional rage where how can you put out a policy of where a party goes when you're in emotional rage all the time?
Right.
You know, and we've talked about this, they are the party of identity politics. Mm-hmm. That means you judge people by groups and not individuals. That means you're in the blame game. Nothing is ever your fault. Mm-hmm. It's always somebody else's fault. Mm-hmm. Somebody always has to be blamed for any of the problems that happen or any of the problems that you have, and it's never you.
Right.
And so you become, in a way, narcissistic and full of emotional hate. Well, How can you run a party based on that when you're not running a party based on where you stand on the issues? Because you do know that the American public won't accept what you're telling them the Democratic Party stands for if you tell them the truth, which is why Kamala Harris had to lie.
Right.
And that's what you got last night. You know, was it Simone Sanders, I think, on MSNBC? Well, if Walz believes what Vance does, why is he running?
Yeah.
Why should I vote for him if he stands for the same thing? I don't want the civility. I want that anger that shows where we are different. Well, the anger is where Harris really stands on the policies that she won't admit. Why don't you get angry at her?
Right.
She's the one that says she'll be tougher on the border than Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, the far left doesn't understand. And now they were going to tolerate the lies about sounding more like Trump, and now they're done with that. They clearly, the reaction to last night's debate from the left clearly shows that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm telling you, Eric, I see if the polls continue to move in Trump's favor, you're going to see an awful angry liberal media out there.
Yeah, I think when we heard someone earlier, we played the audio cut of one of them saying, from this point on, the gloves are off.
That was Joy Reid.
Yeah. I don't know that about the Harris campaign, but certainly for the liberal media, the gloves are off. They absolutely are furious now, and they're angry that, again, they got buyer's remorse, and then she picked a horrible Veep, and so now they put it on themselves to get the job done.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.